Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the African Young Leaders Youth Dialogue series. As usual, we host them every Sunday and we talk about the different issues that affect young people. My name is Mary Joyce Takali and I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary of the African Young Leaders Foundation. And today with me, I have esteemed panelists from different countries who are experts in different fields, and I believe that what they are going to share with us would be useful and we will emulate from their discussions and submissions. So before we go ahead, allow me to introduce to you our panelists. We have two gentlemen and one lady, and in no particular order, we have Mr. Brian Sengeli. I am sorry if I butcher your name, from Kenya. And then we have Miss Maria Wangithi, also from Kenya, and Mr. Opio Charles from Uganda. So before we go ahead, I would like to invite you, our dear panelists, so you can introduce yourself. Please tell us about yourself and what you feel that is important for us to know about you. And we shall call it a discussion. We shall start the discussion thereafter. So I'll start with you, Mr. Sengeli Brian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for this particular engagement. My name is Sengeli Brian, and good evening to everyone. So for me, I work at the intersection of policy, that's public policy and governance. And of course, which means, or in plain language, I spend my days thinking about why systems work for some people and fail for others. And of course, what makes or what it takes to change that. Before this particular session, I have asked myself the very questions that we are debating today, and not as an academic exercise, but of course as a personal one. And I suspect many people in this particular forum have the tension between, of course, the pool of opportunity elsewhere and the way of responsibility, of course, here. It's not a sign of weakness, but also it means that we are paying attention to ourselves. So I hope to contribute to this conversation today, primarily not just to respond to the questions, but also to be able to break down the nuances, because I believe that the future of Africa will not be decided by geography, but by intention. So by what we choose to build and why and for whom. So I look forward to a conversation that is honest enough to name our real challenges and bold enough to imagine our real possibilities. Back to you, Joyce.
Thank you so much. That was very elaborate about you, and it's a pleasure to have you tonight. We hope to learn from you and hear from your experiences. You're very much welcome once again. Miss Maria, please, you can unmute and introduce yourself at this moment.
Thank you. My name is Maria Wangithi. I am a digital health clinician here in Kenya, and I'm here today as someone who has made that deliberate choice to be able to build here in Africa, on this continent with this generation, not because it's easy, as we all know, even from our different countries, but because I believe
I think we lost you at some point.
End of conversation. I'm saying, sorry, I'm hoping that by the end of the conversation that you're going to have today, we'll be able to believe that together as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria. We welcome you to the African Young Leaders Foundation Dialogue, and we can't wait to hear from you, of course. Mr. Opio Charles, kindly unmute and introduce yourself.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so glad that I'm here today. By names of Opio Charles, a physiotherapist, and I work in the humanitarian setting. To be particular, I work within Bidibidi refugee settlement, which is in West Nile part of the country of Uganda. Yeah, it is a pleasure today to come and discuss this topic that really is something that affects the whole continent as Africa. And I believe even I might be in a different sector, which is health, and not more into the governance and policy sectors. But I feel we all have a contribution we can play to this. And it is something that cuts across. Yes, so I feel this topic needs all the sectors, whether you're in health, whether you're in leadership, whether you're in engineering, all that. So I feel we can all contribute, and I'm very happy that we have a diversity of expertise on the platform to have a discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles. I would like to let you know that your being here is very crucial, because the fact that you have been a youth leader and you are still a leader, so your experience matters most in this dialogue. So I would like to thank everyone who is joining us live on YouTube, and please keep the comments coming, keep the discussion live, and we can't wait to hear from you and what you say, and then our amazing speakers. So our theme tonight is the African dream versus the Western syndrome. Should we lead here or leave? So we always hear thousands of young people leave for they call them greener pastures. They go to Europe, they go to America, or some even go to Asia, or wherever else they go every year, chasing opportunities that they feel aren't available here at home in Africa. But at the same time, we hear countless stories of same young people who stay behind and build at home. And despite the fact that we have weak institutions in Africa, we have corruption, there's a notion of scarce resources, which I believe is wrong. I believe that we have all the resources in Africa. So our goal today is not to judge personal choices, but then to explore the deeper realities, the opportunities, and the responsibilities that come with being young and then African at the same time. So you've heard from our amazing speakers and how they've introduced ourselves. I'm sure you're excited like me to hear from them. And I know that what they bring here is going to make the discussion alive, and it will help us understand the theme in particular, whether it's leaving or staying. I think by the end of the conversation, we'll be at a balanced level of thinking. So before we dive in, or we can dive in the rest of the conversation, I want us to start from understanding what we call the Western syndrome. And I would like to start with you, Mr. Sengeli, that I saw some statistics that according to the United Nations, 20% of African graduates express strong intent to leave their home countries for work abroad most times. Sometimes the reasons they give is limited job opportunities, like we said, corruption. We've been having 2 consecutive dialogues about corruption and accountability. And those are some of the reasons that young people give. They give reasons like limited job opportunities, yes, I mentioned, but also scarce resources in Africa. And we find that many young people today believe that the real opportunity or real opportunities exist outside Africa. So according to you, in your view personally, is this perception exaggerated, or is it rational according to the realities that young people face in Africa today? I think you're still muted, Mr. Brian.
Sorry for that. So Mary, I was responding to that particular question of perception. And there's a joke that usually goes around, and of course among many other African professionals, that the best export from Africa is its people. They are fully trained, They are fully funded by African governments, and of course delivered straight to Western economies free of charge. We laugh, but of course with this particular joke, the discomfort underneath is very, very real. We have given statistics, and also when you look at other statistics like a report by the African Development Bank, it actually states that Africa loses approximately 70,000 skilled professionals annually to immigration. Now, these are doctors, these are engineers, these are teachers, these are researchers trained at significant public cost. Meanwhile, the continent spends over 4 billion annually importing foreign expertise just to come and fill the very gaps that these particular individuals have left behind. So we are paying twice for the same problem. I'm an ardent reader of Chinua Achebe, and actually he tells us in his books that the very problems that our countries, that is Africa by large, because he was referring to Nigeria, but I'll extend it to Africa, that the trouble that we have is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. The perception that opportunity lies elsewhere is at its root a crisis of confidence in our institutions. And that is a leadership and governance failure. We must confront it directly. Recently, I spoke to a friend of mine from Zambia. He's a medical graduate. He's very brilliant. He's, of course, top of her class. And she had been posted to a rural area, very rural clinic with no running water. There was very unreliable electricity, and also the equipment that had not been serviced for over 5 years since it was brought into that particular hospital clinic. So she lasted for 8 months before she applied for a scholarship abroad. Then she did not leave. Then she left for the scholarship. So she don't leave because she stopped loving Zambia. She left because Zambia stopped loving her back. So the question we must answer is not whether she was wrong to leave, but the question is why the system made her leaving the only rational option.
So ideally, you are saying that it's the systems that make us leave. Like we mentioned, the limited job opportunities, the corruption in the systems that we have, the weak institutions are the ones that force young people to leave Africa. And like you mentioned that you mentioned about the report of African Development Bank. It is so alarming that a number of young people are leaving Africa. You said 70,000. That is too much. I was making a research and I realized that there are many Kenyans, by the way, we lose a lot of Kenyans to Silicon Valley. Like these are tech professionals and they leave every year. And the other country that also has the same problems might be Nigeria. So in that case, if we are losing professionals, like you said, if we are losing talented Africans, like you said, if they keep leaving, what long-term impact could this have on either innovation, on our leadership, or on the economic growth of Africa as a continent?
So the impact is greater. As I did mention, Africa is the world's greatest, of course, development donor. We raise children, we educate them, and then, of course, just donate them fully formed to economies that did not even spend a single dollar on their upbringing. So the West calls this immigration, but we should probably call it what it is, an unreciprocated transfer of wealth, because we're transferring African wealth to the economies that haven't even supported us. When you look at the estimates from World Health Organization, it estimates that sub-Saharan Africa carries 24% of the world's disease burden, but has access to only 3% of the world's health workers. When you look at a country like Ethiopia, a country of over 120 million people, has fewer doctors than the city of Oslo itself. So that's not a natural disaster. It is the cumulative consequences of decades that has been piling of skilled immigration, of course, compounded by underinvestment in the retention. So this is a problem that that has a knock-on effect. When you look at the speeches of PLO Lumumba, he did put it powerfully that Africa does not lack resources. Africa lacks the will to use its resources for the benefit of its own people. So brain drain is not an economic statistic. It is a symptom of that missing will, the failure to create an environment where talent is valued, where it is rewarded, and where it is retained. In 1960s, the country of South Korea and Ghana had virtually identical GDP per capita. But today, South Korea is the world's 13th, I think, largest economy. But with all its resources, potential, that is Ghana, with all its resources, potential, and potential, that is, it is still classified as a lower middle income country. So the difference is not natural endowment. It is a challenge of governance and priorities in terms of policies and investment. Economists point that point to critical variable of South Korea invested aggressively in keeping and developing human capital, but other countries, particularly maybe they invested in other areas that hasn't given much return on investment. But when you look at our challenge, institutions are not trusted by its own people. But when it becomes a challenge, then it becomes a problem for even young people to be to have an environment where they can be able to nurture their talents. So we are still learning that particular lesson as a continent, while other countries are progressing well. Back to you, Mary.
Thank you, Honorable. I like where you're taking this conversation, that we have to actually look at the systemic limitations that affect us as young people, and then the governance issues that we have that lead to many young people leaving our countries and going to search for greener pastures. I really, really love where the conversation is going. Now that we've heard from you about the Western syndrome, we need to hear from Miss Maria, who says that actually she supports us building from here, and she's here to defend the African dream. So Miss Maria, I'll give an example of M-Kopa Solar, which started in Kenya, but then also came to Uganda. And this was an innovation that was started by young people. And we have seen it thriving, and it has impacted thousands and thousands of homes. It has given young people jobs. So when we talk about the African dream, what does that practically mean for a young person trying to build a future here on the continent?
Thank you for that. And I want to start by being able to ground this whole African dream thing, because now we're used to it as a very, big slogan. And if you're not careful, we will just like have it remain as a slogan for us, like the African dream. So we deserve more than the slogan. And practically what this African dream means is the possibility of having this opportunity with us. So let's say, for example, for the case of the M-Kopa, you have this young person who has been born into this continent and has built this thing that is very meaningful. And very, very sure of this person is the prosperity of it in his life or her life. And African dream means that you will not have to leave that particular thing for you to go build it elsewhere because of the opportunities that are there that are not within us. So for me, it's that young person born in this continent, being able to build that meaningful thing like the M-Copper, having a prosperous life without having to leave behind that which made him be that like who he was. So without him leaving behind everything that made him who they are. So that is the likes of their family and everyone that was in support of that, and the culture that he did come out of from, and the community as well, like the whole entirety. So the possibility of having this opportunity with us and building from here, from the very start to the very end.
Okay, I think you're making me believe in the African dream right now. So after seeing the Western syndrome and then understanding what the African dream is, we usually hear about the American dream, but we also have the African dream. We have a lot of resources. Like Mr. Sengeli said that PLO told us that we have a lot of resources in Africa. But I would like to come to you, Charles. Because we usually see some young Africans who are leveraging experiences from abroad and then bringing them home, which I think is also a good thing. Like, for example, our CEO and founder is based in the US, but there is a lot of impact that is making through African Young Leaders Foundation on the continent. So, Mr. Opie, I would like to come to you, and you helped us understand that in your own view, do you think that Africans can build meaningful impact both at home and abroad?
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I do believe Africans can build meaningful impact both locally and abroad, but the question rotates around intentionality. What are the intentions of these Africans? What are their mindsets? Because right now we are more in a globalization. It's like a global economy. So you're able to interact with people out of the continent. You're able to get scholarships and study out of the continent. But you as an African, when you go wherever you go, wherever the opportunity is, what is your intention? Is your intention to gain knowledge and remain like work with the knowledge you've gotten in places that are not your own? Like maybe you've gone to the US, you've gotten a scholarship, but after studying, instead of coming back to Africa to cause an impact, you're deciding to remain in the US. But still, in this aspect, in terms of having both an impact home and out, it can be a two-way thing. Okay, so you know that at the moment we have more of globalization, just like I said. You have diaspora networks, you have remote work. There's something that is coming up a lot, remote work. You have projects that are transnational, okay? That you find there's a company in the US, it has a branch in Uganda. You have a company maybe in Ghana, and it has a branch maybe in France or wherever. So you see that we can be able to leverage on the knowledge we get from wherever we go, wherever we get the scholarships, and we are able to utilize this knowledge also to develop our countries. Then realize that impact is multidimensional. So we can have impact economically, politically, culturally, scientifically. So you see that we have, like, for example, different scholarships that give out, help out students in different sectors. Some are financial institutions, some are more into climate change. We have some that are doing research. But the real thing, just like I stated at first, the intentionality of the Africans who go wherever to study, are they intentional enough to think through what can they learn and impact in their local communities? Are they willing to mentor other people, maybe back into Africa? Remember, they can do this mentorship even online, even when they remain maybe in the US. You can still mentor people from Uganda, from Kenya, and are they willing to give out this knowledge and impact on the society they have left behind? Then we also have to acknowledge that our opportunities differ. Okay, the opportunities we have in Africa actually might be limited compared to the opportunities out. So we can leverage on the opportunities outside and try to create a better environment for our fellow Africans that we have left behind. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much. In other words, you are saying that we can use both. It depends on the intentionality of young people when they go abroad, and then if they have a good mindset, they can be able to bring it back to Africa. So I was making research and I realized that one of the diasporas that have worked for their countries is the Indian and the Jewish diasporas, that historically they've contributed massive investments and knowledge to their home countries. So I'm thinking if Africa could replicate this, do you think that migration can actually become an advantage to Africa? And if yes, what are some of those advantages that migration can bring for us?
All right. Thank you so much. I believe that migration can really have a big impact on Africa. First of all, just like I stated, in terms of knowledge, in terms of building the knowledge capacity amongst the population. The other issue is in regards to provision of the capital. You know that actually money that comes from diaspora is one of apart from aid, money coming from diasporas is one of the biggest contributor on revenue, okay, into most of the African countries. So if this capital that comes in, if it is utilized well, for example, I've seen there are companies that have tried to create kind of bonds and like investment vehicles for these people in the diaspora where they can invest in their monies, and this money can get into the system. Then you have these people after maybe a period of time coming back and setting up businesses in their home countries. Particularly, like I can give a case for Ugandans. The Ugandans are maybe they go out in Saudi Arabia, work for maybe like 5 years, save their money and come back and try to create some small ventures. There is an aspect of skilling, maybe starting up mentorship, okay? Starting up mentorship to teach the local Africans about the different knowledge they have, the people in diaspora have gained from the different networks, from the different interactions they have had. So this helps in terms of exposure, okay, in terms of providing more knowledge, and this knowledge can be used to improve the livelihood of Africans in one way or another. We have an impact in terms of policies and advocacy. You understand that even politically, the diaspora has a lot of influence. For example, maybe I can give a scenario of how some political parties utilize diasporas to gain support, to gain even funding. So you see that diaspora can can contribute politically, they contribute economically, they contribute in governance, and they contribute on the policies that are made. Yes, so because they have uh, they have a level, they have a place they have placed Africa at. Of course, we know the negative aspects are there, but if we are able to look at the positive and try to improve and see how we can get more out of the diaspora, I think it can help drive Africa's growth forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opio. From what you're saying, I take it that we can actually use the diaspora to our advantage if they are willing to bring sorry, what is it called? It's called profit repatriation. I think the economists call it profit repatriation. I stand to be guided, whoever is listening. But according to what you're saying, actually we can use migration to an advantage in Africa. And I don't want to repeat what you've said because I might end up diluting what you've said. So I want to come to you, Miss Maria. We've talked about, Honorable Sengeli talked about the issues that we have, and majorly they had to do with governance issues and weak institutions, you know, and I also like to talk about corruption a lot because I believe it affects us as African countries. And these are some of the reasons that young people or the reasons that are forcing young people to leave the continent. But we have seen countries that have cultivated like, for example, Rwanda. Rwanda has cultivated a good tech ecosystem and it has attracted a lot of global investors. But in other countries that still have those kind of systemic barriers, how can Africa or those other African countries survive in that kind of environment, Miss Maria?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I do appreciate it because it's one big question that every honest defender of the African dream must answer. And I would want to take it. So let me just be direct and to the audience as well. Corruption is real. This is the story in Africa. We have weak institutions, we have limited economic opportunities, which we have truly seen. And I'm not telling you any otherwise. So anyone who will dismiss those realities has clearly never tried to register a business here or waited maybe for 2 years for the government tender to get paid, or you watch a more connected or less qualified person get that opportunity that you deserved. But my question is, has any dream, even how we say the American dream, the European one as well, has it ever prospered without, has it ever been born in a perfect environment? Have you seen the history of maybe the American dream? It prospered because of the enslaved people. The Europe's prosperity was funded by the extraction colonially from this very continent. Maybe the Chinas as well, it was out of an authoritarian system. No dream has ever waited for the perfect conditions, and this is our reality right now as we preach the African dream. It will not it will not have the perfect environment for itself. So here's what I know. There are usually gaps. For every broken system, even a broken line has gaps in between. And this is where builders are able to grow out of. Let's say, for example, the M-Pesa here in Kenya. It did not become the perfect banking infrastructure, or it did not wait for the perfect banking infrastructure for it to be how it is operating right now. It became the infrastructure itself. Look at Nollywood. It didn't wait for Hollywood to come and fund it for it to be, invested in here to be Nollywood. It became its own billion-dollar industry with nothing. So these are not accidents. We actually get to learn from them. So these are our broken systems, and that's our reality. And where we see obstacles, we should grab that as an opportunity. So yes, the environment is difficult for the African dream, but we survive it anyway. And it has survived through the stubbornness, the relentlessness, the refusal of a generation to accept that as the reality and accepting that as a permanent thing. So we are that generation actually, and we begin it from this room as we have these discussions. And we actually see the positivity of it, that that's a gap, and that's where we are going to build from. So yes, I agree. The reality is with us, with those limitations, but we take it positively with the fact that we are building in those gaps and we're not getting defined by perfect situations. So this is the reality and the survival of our African dream. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our defender of the African dream tonight. And you are saying that we cannot wait for perfect conditions. We know that these issues are there. You spoke about how it is hard to start a business. Even formalizing it is very bureaucratic. There are lengthy procedures and very discouraging. Even the business environment itself is not safe. Like, there are so many things that force young people to, to leave. But like you said, we need to see these obstacles as opportunities, and we accept the reality as it is, and we build here. And you never know, we might also become like M-Pesa. Before we go ahead, I'd like to give a shout out to our viewer on YouTube called Nkundimana Jean Baptist. Thank you so much for watching from Rwanda, and we send a shout out to you. So speaking of YouTube and social media, Mr. Brian, I'd like to direct this question to you. Usually we see social media platforms like Instagram, that's where we usually post lifestyle. Instagram and TikTok, we see like it often highlights lifestyle. You see people abroad who have, someone just went abroad and then now they have fancy cars, they have high salaries, luxury apartments, and this creates a perception that they are successful. And it can make someone think that, these things can only be attained outside Africa. So, Mr. Brian, we would like to understand, because social media usually glorifies life abroad. Do you think that it has distorted how young Africans perceive success?
Yeah, I think social media has given us remarkable gift. The ability to watch someone in Toronto eating brunch in slow motion and conclude that our life here in Nairobi is a failure. Nobody actually posts their 15-degree winters or their isolation out there, or even post the racism that is there at the immigration office, or there are 3 jobs they are working to pay rent. So we are comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else highlight reel and eventually losing sleep over it. I like that you quoted, I think it was the UN report at the very beginning. There's also the Afrobarometer report that was done across, I think, 34 countries, African countries, which found that 52% of young Africans still express an interest to emigrate within the next few years. When asked the primary reason, economic opportunity ranked first, but perceived quality of life abroad, heavily shaped by social media, social networks, it ranked close to a second. So we are just responding to, we're not just responding to reality, we are responding to curated images of reality. When you look at the works of Steve Biko, who is one of the Africa's most penetrating thinkers, he warned us decades ago that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So when young Africans start to internalize a version of success that is entirely Western in its geography, it is aesthetics, or even its metrics, then we are not exercising freedom. We are performing a script written for us by someone else. And of course, relating this to what I've seen, there's a colleague of mine from Tanzania. He's called, I think, Jeff. Jeff was working in Germany for the last 7 years, and people expected him to come back transformed, elevated, and changed. And he was, but not in the way that they imagined. He told me, Brian, the loneliness I felt in Munich was something nobody prepared me for. I had salary, I had a title, but I had no community, I had no context, no belonging. He is now running one of Tanzania's most promising fintech startups. He told me his greatest innovation came not from what Europe gave him, but from what coming home reminded him that Africa needed. So success turns out, success, it turns out, has an address already. Had an address that he already knew. So it doesn't matter that you have to go out to succeed, but still you can still succeed from within, as our colleague, of course, Esther has put it. You don't have to go outside to succeed. There's still other opportunities from within that you can be able to exploit and be able to succeed.
Thank you so much. So in other words, what social media usually portrays is just the front, it's just the aesthetics. Usually the behind the scene is and those heavy too much, many hours that they work. But
Yeah.
Anyway, it reminded me of a book that I read, I think, at the beginning of this year, The Alchemist, where this boy was searching for his personal legend. But then at the end of the book, he realized that actually the treasure was within him. So I think sometimes we need to give Africa time, and maybe we can realize that actually we can build here and actually become successful. The success that is not defined by the Western world. And I would like to go to Miss Maria, who is busy defending the African dream tonight. And, there is this guy called Strive Masiyiwa from Zimbabwe, and he started Econet, which has become a very big, a company. And I think it is headquartered in South Africa right now. So we have examples of those Africans who have built and have become successful and have given jobs to thousands of young people. So some people argue that that real change will only happen if Africa's brightest minds like Strive stay and build here, locally in Africa. So, Miss Maria, do you personally agree that young people have a responsibility to contribute to their countries or to our continent?
Thank you again. Yes, let me just be honest. I believe that young Africans have a responsibility to contribute deeply and apologetically, yes. But I want us to understand two things here. What does this responsibility actually mean? Because contribution is not the same as physical presence. We've been able to maybe, let's say, for example, have a Ugandan doctor who is in London who, trains virtually and then publishes research that is going to improve some clinical area back at home, and maybe returns periodically, for maybe service or two here and there. That person is contributing. But presence alone is not the standard. And I want to be very clear about this. There are things that only physical presence can do. You cannot sit maybe in our parliament here in Kenya when you're abroad. You have to be here. The problems are here with us. and it is more efficient when we have you with us and the problems. You get the community you're trying to build, the community that you're trying to serve cannot be helped from a distance effectively as you being there. So responsibility is not to stay at all costs. The responsibility is to do not disconnect. Never look at the continent and see only one that you escaped from, but also choose to have your presence, choose to have your contribution all together as much as you can. So yes, I do believe that a responsibility here is worth the contribution, both physically and even virtually, even when you're in the diaspora. But more impact, I do believe, is for those that are within their problems, because solutions and problems do really need to be together at this point. So yes.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria. It's our responsibility as young people. Africa's future relies so much on us as young people, and it relies so much on how we empower young people. So we need them on ground. And because we are the biggest population in Africa, so we need to do something about it. Miss Maria, I'm still with you because this African dream, we need to make it look attractive, you know? So recently, Ghana has been making improvements in trying to push making business easy, like improving the business environments, then attracting startups. They've been doing all of that in Ghana. So what must change in our leadership and then the weak institutions that we had, or even in the economic system, for us to be able to sell this idea to young people so that they can stay and do something?
Coming from experience in Kenya, I'd want to say we need to have a leadership that has a lot of growth, especially to the young people. We do not want to be inspired anymore. We would want to be part of those that are accountable for this leadership as well. We appreciate the times where we were treated, as the inspiration, and everything was being done to inspire us and grow. And this point where they've been able to achieve that or partly achieve that, would want to be also a constituency of accountability as well. For our economic systems, they need to improve on how they reward on merit, not like connections. Just the reward itself shows a lot of contribution towards what these young people are being able to do, especially with the problems that they're being able to solve. Because these are the basic conditions under which any dream can grow. Because now at least we are having something that we look forward to. There's a reward system and it's based on the merit, and that is actually going to inspire even more innovation. And thirdly, this is now for everyone of us. Even having gotten to understand the African dream, we must change the narrative that we are used to. So accepting that this is Africa, this is Kenya, this is Uganda, this is Rwanda, this is whatever country you're in here in Africa, accepting the kind of problems that we do have, not trying to sugarcoat, and also remembering, even from how we began the whole discussion, the American dream, the European, the Chinese, they all started with having to get understanding of where they were coming from, and they were able to source whatever it is that they were able to source for them to at least achieve where they are from now, where they are at this point. So understanding our problems as they are, even as we look at the age of AI and everything, understanding that we are not yet there as 100% as the first world countries, understanding that we are understanding our level at where it is. If it is people with the connectivity, a large number without the connectivity, and not trying to sugarcoat anything. So having a leadership that holds us accountable having an economic system that rewards on merit, and changing the narrative from beautifying what it actually not is to what is actually on the ground with us as our problems. Then from that, we get to understand them, and then we're able to build that which is the African dream. Is that the AI narrative? Is it our health systems? Is it our infrastructural systems and everything, leadership, the economy? We will be able to grow out of that by understanding our basis purely.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria. I honestly don't want to repeat that because it was very elaborate. Thank you so much. Mr. Opie, I've not forgotten you. I want to direct this question towards you. I remember you talked about how we can actually use diaspora to an advantage as Africa. And I would like to know, because we've talked about how institutions can play an important role in this theme today. How should African governments really what role should they play in engaging their diaspora communities more effectively? Because we've seen that they can actually contribute towards the development of Africa.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, African governments can really help play a part in improving the communication. So one of the things would be improving the institution engagement with the diaspora. One of the key aspects can be having a dedicated governance. So more of a kind of a department or a ministry that is in charge for diaspora issues. Okay. And this is like creates like a single point of contact and also improves the coordination efforts. For example, like the diaspora people, in case of any challenges, they have they have where they can really contact to, maybe to the embassies, wherever they are. They're able to reach out to this ministry or department that is in charge of their affairs. Then you can have issues like kind of just like a platform, but more of for communication, for trying to, maybe if these people in diaspora require maybe licenses, maybe for different kinds of work they're doing, maybe approvals for different kinds of things. Maybe they want to invest, but they need approvals. So all this is streamlined so that it is easy for these people to be able to do different things even when they are not home. Okay, maybe they want to invest in something back home. If this is streamlined and there is a unified platform that is really transparent and trustworthy, just like my colleague stated at the start, that institutions are not trusted. That is one of the biggest issue. So if the governments in Africa try to create that trust, build that trust again, and that transparency, so that we as Africans, we don't despise other institutions we have. If the institutions are strengthened, there will be trust by the investors. For example, of course, just like I said, these diaspora people are able to invest. They are able to send in money and invest. So once the institutions are strengthened enough and there's trust in these institutions, these investors in the diaspora, they also have more will to invest more in their home countries. Then the other thing is doing kind of data mapping. Okay, so for that, there's always exercises that are done to understand the demographics, the skills, the geographic distribution of these people who are abroad. For example, for Uganda, maybe if they have kind of something that is done to understand how many Ugandans are out of the country and how many maybe in this part of the world, maybe Asia, what kind of skills do they have? Okay, so that the countries where they are coming from better understand them from their demographics, from their skilling, and they can be able to help them based on this information. Okay, then the other thing is just like my colleague had stated before, the issue in regards to having a leadership that engages the young. You know that African continent has one of the youngest populations across the world. And we have most of our leaders are actually, the age bracket is actually high. So you see the difference. But we need to have a leadership that engages, that brings in the young, brings in the youth, so that they are more involved in decision making, in discussions that can cause an impact and have a change. So I think that's how we shall have a great change in how we handle communication. And then the other issue is enhancing digital and utilizing these digital platforms, okay, to reach out to the diaspora, okay. For example, use of the virtual platforms. I understand since COVID, there has been a rise in use of the digital platforms, but I understand there are people who still feel like digital platforms maybe don't bring out exactly what the physical conversation does bring out. But yes, we understand that, but you know that now digital is here to stay. Just like right now, I'm interacting with you digitally. We are in different parts of the country. I'm in Uganda, you might also be in Uganda, and we have colleagues in Kenya. We are interacting digitally. So we just have to use this communication and enhance them so that they try to solve the problems we have in terms of communication, in terms of getting to understand each other. And I feel that is the way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opio. You've reiterated that we need representation as young people, but we also need participation, meaningful participation, not tokenism. And I think that is the point is clear and it is gotten by our viewers. Speaking of viewers, live on YouTube, we have a comment from Joash Sebugulu. He says that he suggests that those in power should believe in young people and give them a platform to address issues affecting them in Africa. I think he concurs with our speakers. Thank you so much, Joash, for being on. And then we have Kazimoto Olivier from Rwanda. Shout outs to you and thank you for being here and actually participating in the discussion. I am still with you, Charles, because we want to now find a balanced perspective. We've talked about living, we've talked about staying, but now looking ahead, what model of leadership do you believe will best serve Africa's development?
Thank you so much. Just like I stated before, the leadership that involves the young, because that is the majority of the population we have in Africa, a leadership that is trustworthy and transparent, that they are accountable to the citizens. Okay, and also we need a leadership that actually gives strength in the institutions, leadership that believes in empowering institutions and acting as a guardian of the institutions. So most of the times we realize that in most of the African countries, we tend to have leaders who have absolute power. And this tries to really nullify the powers that the institutions have. You find that the head of state has absolute power on the hiring, dismissing government employees, and can really have a lot of decisions. And some of these decisions weaken the institutions. So I believe that if institutions are empowered and we have strong institutions that are able to make proper judgment with guidance from the executive of the government, I believe that will transform growth and development in Africa. Then the other aspect is adapting a leadership that looks at the issues that we have, the issues that are moving on. Like at the moment, we have climate change affecting every part of the world. We need a leadership that looks at what is currently affecting the people. What can we do to improve? Okay, and not waiting for aid, like foreign aid, to come up, maybe for NGOs to come up to get solutions for us. We need locally made solutions. Okay, we need those local solutions to come within us and be able to cause a change in our communities. Okay, and the other one is governance in entrepreneurship and also in investments. I feel we need a leadership that creates an environment that enables entrepreneurs to thrive. Okay, realize that most of our presenters have highlighted the issue of how hard it is to set up a business, even legalizing it, how hard it is. So we need a leadership that streamlines and makes entrepreneurship easy. Okay, realize that most Africans tend to highlight the issue of having maybe tax holidays for foreigners, but when it comes to the natives, the Africans, this is something they just hear about, something that is not done on their side. So you see the differences. So I feel if these are sorted out, we will have a great growth in terms of the different aspects, economically, governance, and the other aspects of growth. And maybe the last side is you realize that most of like the startups that happen maybe from out of Africa, even some within the African context, realize that they are always investors and funders. So realize that people are always coming up as a group to start up something. But if I can give a context, like Uganda in particular, there is a statistic that I'm trying to remember that puts Uganda as one of the most entrepreneurial country in the whole world. But if you come on the ground, in the context is people start up businesses individually, and these businesses, actually most of them, they don't reach the 50th birthday, like 50th year birthday, like they close, but they always have the ideas. So I feel there's also a gap in terms of people working together to start up. Okay. And also I think it's more of an issue in regards to people's culture. No, I don't know whether it's culture or more of the mind. Okay, I don't know how to state it, but people tend to are not really trustworthy people. Like you know about loans, people don't pay loans, people default. So I think it's one actual of the contributors of uh, entrepreneurial ventures not succeeding, most of them. So I'm just highlighting that as also a gap, that if leadership is the leaders look through this and try to see how to improve this and create an environment where every African can start up something and thrive, I feel that will enable massive growth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opio. That was amazing and very elaborate. You say that we need a leadership that involves young people. We need better governance. We need leaders who are accountable. But above all, we need locally made solutions to be supported. You mentioned that African young people are actually very entrepreneurial, but the problem we have is that the business environment is not friendly. So if we are able to make the business environment friendly, we would be able to help young people. We usually blame all our poverty on colonialism, but as a big believer in free markets, I believe that the problems that we have in Africa are usually because of government overregulation and then the unfriendly business environment. So we need to make this easy. We need to support entrepreneurs. We need to make it easy for them to start businesses, but also make lasting businesses. Thank you so much, Mr. Opio. So, Mr. Honorable Sengeli, with your last question, I would like to ask if you were to advise a talented young person like me. I believe I am talented. But if you were to advise a talented young person who is at crossroads between leaving and staying, what factors should guide their decision? I think you're muted.
Sorry. So I assume if I had $1 for every time a young African told me they were leaving to get experience and come back to fixing things, I would have enough money to fix several things myself. Because I mean, behind that joke is a pattern worth examining, because intention without structure is just a wish with an airplane ticket. When you look at the reports from the World Bank, it estimates that African diaspora remittances totaled over $100 billion. That is in 2023, exceeding foreign direct investment and also official development assistance combined. And this also was evident in Kenya sometimes last year, when our Prime Cabinet Secretary indicated that foreign remittances now exceeds our total export. So leaving does not have to mean that we are abandoning. And I think my colleague Opio Charles alluded to this particular fact, because the diaspora, when strategically engaged, can be one of Africa's most powerful development assets. The question is whether we build the policy frameworks to harness that particular connection, or whether we simply watch it just go uncoordinated. Wangari Maathai, who was Africa's first female Nobel laureate, said that in the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness. So I believe that moment is now for young Africans. And the shift is from asking, where can I succeed, to asking, where is my success most needed? So those are profoundly different questions, and they lead to profoundly different lives. There's a story told about a young man who left his village to find water because the well had run dry. He traveled far and also he found water. So he drank deeply from the well that he found. He learned how to dig a well, and then crucially, he came back home and dug a well for his village. So that that is the mode that I want young Africans to carry. Live if you must, learn everything you can, drink deeply from whatever opportunity is before you, but never forget that there's a village whose well is still dry, and you may be the one who knows how to dig. The factors that should guide the decision are purpose, the intention, and the connection. So go if going makes you more capable of contributing. Stay if staying gives you the platform to lead the change that you want. But in either case, remain African in your commitments, even when you are not African in your coordinates. I think I'll leave it at that, Mary.
Thank you so much. You are telling us to leave if we must, but bring back what we've learned to Africa. Thank you so much, Mr. Sengeli. At this juncture, I would like to welcome our founder. He has a question, if not a couple of questions, to one of the panelists or to all of them before we call this a night. Mr. James, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, team. I'm very sorry. I'm at a program and I can't show my face at the moment. Thank you so much for your words. I've really learned a lot, but I have a question. It's not directed to a particular person, but I appreciate it if Maria can chip in with after everybody has, shared their opinion. And I'm taking inspiration from the days of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in the 1960s when he was leading the Casablanca group advocating for the progressive African movement that we should have a United States of Africa, right? And that of the Morovia bloc, opposing that ideology. And I think if we're able to attain that vision that Kwame Nkrumah had, Africa would have also just been like the United States that we have today, moving from one state to the other without any border restrictions, can move goods and services, and then it boosts a whole lot of, the economy, the youth, they don't find difficult to discover themselves. So in that context, I'm looking at how the African situation is right now with different kind of blocks, such as the ECOWAS, the East African Community, and all of that. So will we say that the Africa's dream of true continental unity being weakened by the rise of competing regional blocks, each flexing its own power instead of building our collective strength, have really caused with the youth in rediscovering ourselves? Because if you have that flexible system, states coming together and joining forces, it creates a more welcoming environment for we the youth, instead of we staying, but we want to have to travel outside to discover ourselves before we come to correct the wrongs. So what do you have to say about that? I'm sorry, please, did you get it right? So I'm hoping to get an answer from any of our distinguished guest speakers. But I appreciate if Maria, because you are really for the African dream. So I want to take your view too as well, right? What has these
Okay.
activities contributed to shattering the African dream and making it difficult for us to attain?
Okay,
Maybe if I
I'd
can
say, okay.
proceed, Esther.
Okay, I'd say it would have really worked out if we did not have a lot of influence, maybe from the West. These opportunities in these social unions for maybe a certain southern part, East African part, or northern part, they'll really have worked if we did consider 100% inclusivity of our own without a lot of political involvement and the Western as well. So it's the challenge. Remember when I was talking about having a broken system and the gaps in between the systems being a very building chance for us, then that I'd really say could be an opportunity for us, but also look at it as a block at the same time because of the influence that we already see them have at this point. Maybe Honorable Sengeli can give us something.
I think you've raised a very critical question, because in reality, an African actually trying to move from Lagos to Nairobi for work, they need a visa, and they pays more in that particular trip than they do from in a trip from let's say Nairobi to London. And when they arrive there, they find that their qualifications are not even recognized. So when you look at the Europeans, on the other hand, they can pack a bag and work in 27 countries before lunch. We have built a continent where it is easier to leave Africa than to move within it. So if that does not capture our integration problem, I don't know what it does actually. But when you look at the vision that Kwame Nkrumah had, it was not romantic. It was very strategic. In 1963, as you mentioned, he argued that fragmented Africa will remain economically dependent and politically vulnerable. History has largely proven him right, because currently in Africa we have, I think, 8 regional blocks. That is ECOWAS, we have East African Community, we have SADC, we have COMESA, we have African Union, and others. Many have overlapping memberships. They have conflicting trade rules. They have competing priorities. And when you look at the African Continental Free Trade Area, which was launched, I think, in 2021, it is the most serious attempt to realize Kwame Nkrumah's vision. But today, when you look at the intra-African trade, it stands at around 15% of the total African trade, compared to 60% within Europe and, of course, within Asia. So we are a continent that trades more with the world than itself. Even as a country in Kenya, we export more to other countries than we export to our African countries. So Nkrumah himself said that Africa must unite or it shall perish. He understood that fragmentation was not only just a political inconvenience, it was an existential threat to the continent's ability to determine its own destiny. So the competing blocks you reference are in many ways the institutionalization of the very division that he did, of course, won against. So I think it's a serious issue, but when Africa, when Africans, when young people within the African context could reimagine that and try to solve that particular issue in the modern history, I think it's very critical to rework our collaborative frameworks within countries. Like, for instance, East African EAC, East African Community. We can see how we can harmonize our policies, our foreign policies, with other blocs. Like, for instance, EAC harmonize their policies with SADC, with COMESA, so that it becomes easier. If it's impossible for us to have to conduct business within inter-country, but I think we can do it then as a regional bloc, EAC with SADC and COMESA, it becomes, I think, a little bit easier. I think that's the best that I can give to that particular question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you so very much, Honorable Brian and Maria, the African Dream Defender. I appreciate all of you for the wonderful answers. And yeah, I'm really learning a lot, as I've already said. And thank you so much for such great answers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now that you are satisfied, I would like to end this dialogue. But before we end, I would like to call our speakers to give in their last few words. And if they have a call to action, we can start with you, Mr. Sengeli.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and thank you for, of course, everyone who did join. And of course, as young African leaders, we have been challenged by the history, because when you look at France, he's called Frantz Fanon. He warned us in The Wretched of the Earth that each generation must discover its mission and fulfill it or betray it. So the generation of leaders who have betrayed that mission through hypocrisy do not invalidate the mission itself. They simply make it more urgent, and for that case, for the next generation to reclaim it. As an African continent, young people, we have that responsibility, and we have to make sure that we use our demographic dividend as a young populace within the continent to ensure that we fix the challenges that we found. And in this particular case, I would like to say that in whichever space you are, ensure that you are contributing to a change that you want to see. It doesn't matter where you are, because the small thing that you are doing within your community is what counts. Africa, we have 54 countries, and Africa is diverse. And of course, it doesn't mean that we have to work in isolation, or it doesn't mean that we have to come together as USA or United States of Africa for us to do something tangible, because Kofi Annan told us that we may have come on different ships, but we are in the same boat right now. So our diversity, let our diversity be our strength. And also, when you look at our architecture and challenges, we share them. So the solutions are local, the solidarity can still be continental. So lastly, I say, when I say let's build Africa, I mean build your Nairobi, I mean build your Kampala, I mean build your Accra, build your Lusaka or Dakar, build the specific community, the institutions or the systems that you are closest to and most qualified to improve. The continental transformation we speak about is simply millions of local transformations happening simultaneously. And it begins where you are standing right now. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Honorable Brian. Miss Esther Maria, your parting shots?
I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to have that African dream defended, hearing from Honorable Sengeli and also from Mr. Opio. What I would want to say is it's not waiting for any better condition. We'd just continue as it is by at least having better us as leaders as we build the African, learning from, again, the American, the Chinese, and the European as well. So never a right moment, it's just as it is, and it will perfect as we build upon it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria. Mr. Opio Charles, kindly give us your last words.
All right, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here to share with my colleagues, Madam Esther and Mr. Brian. Thank you too. Yeah, so what I can say is we don't have to expect different results when we are doing the same things. So if we really want to change, we need to change what we are doing. That's how we shall expect different results. The other thing is we can use migration as a strategic advantage to transition from brain drain to brain circulation. So with that kind of model, we can be able to use our diaspora as a vital financial and intellectual engine to drive growth and development in Africa. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our lovely panelists. Before we end, I saw one comment from YouTube, and this is Jarawa1721. He or she says, hello from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you so much for watching from Michigan, and whoever you are, we hope that you are an African, and we hope that you come back and build Africa. Thank you so much. And on behalf of African Young Leaders Foundation, I would love to thank you, our panelists, for that thought-provoking discussion. Thank you for making it active for us. And I believe that as young people who are watching or who will even come across this discussion will be able to get something, and it will inform their decisions going forward. So before we leave, we would like to say that whether you decide to stay or leave or both, the African dream is not just a slogan. It is something that is built by those who are willing to confront challenges and also create opportunities. Thank you so much to our speakers and the audience on YouTube. With me in the house, I had Miss Esther Maria Wangithi from Kenya and Honorable Sengeli Brian from Kenya and Mr. Opio Charles from Uganda. We had our founder, Mr. James Aporeku from US, and then Mr. Patrick Benyin Kofi from Rwanda, who is our PR and Membership Director. And I remain Mary Joyce Takari from African Young Leaders Foundation. Thank you so much and have a good night.